Well, hey, everybody. The deep state. Who is the deep state? Isn't that the FBI, the CIA, the intelligence services from around the world? Isn't that the deep state and the bureaucracy, the deep state?
They want to eliminate what they call the deep state. The deep state is a cadre of professionals dedicated to honoring the Constitution, the laws of this country, and carrying out the policies of the Congress and the President.
Well, the deep state is trying to avoid getting a black eye. The deep state is, the secret cabal of government that is not interested in the Constitution, couldn't really give a shit about the president unless, of course, he's obeying them. It's about their control and power and what they want to get away with. So today, they held a vote to release the Epstein files in the House of Representatives, and it passed overwhelmingly with only one vote no. Whole House. Literally, how many of these fucking clowns could vote no on that? We need to hide everything. But Speaker Maggot Mike Johnson said the Epstein files can't be released unredacted because they contain intelligence material that falls under national security, the deep state. He says it's dangerous to force the Department of Justice to declassify documents they didn't create, especially when they involve other agencies like the CIA. The deep state. We don't want to reveal what the deep state is doing and who they're controlling and how they're doing it. We can't have that, right? Literally. How would exposing the use of the CIA, the Central Intelligence Agency, to blackmail pedophiles, how does that create a national security risk? In fact, I would argue that the CIA using blackmail to control pedophile elites is the risk to our nation and our country and our life and our, right? Because power is shifted. It's shifted away from elected representatives and us, the people, and it is shifted over to the deep state, the CIA, the Department of Justice, the FBI, and all of their allies around the world. You see, exposing this takes their power from them, takes their control from them. Folks, this is all SHTF all the time. This is what we're up against. This is why you need to be prepared. Food, water, shelter, clothing, medicine, means of self-defense, because this is what's going on. Like I said, this passed in the House. Apparently, it's got to go to the Senate. Trump has said today he is going to sign it. Well, he said it was a hoax. He said we're idiots for wanting this. See, I am all about freedom and America first. Not playing these fucking games with the deep state and saying, "Oh, we gotta protect this control network." They don't want to admit that. So Marge Taylor Greene was on the House floor, and this is what she said. And it's important for us to know these things and what's going on, folks. Pretending it doesn't matter and you don't want to know when it does matter, right? She said, quote, "For far too long, Americans have been put last and they are sick of it." I concur. She said they are sick and tired of it, and this is why they don't trust Congress. True, I don't trust Congress or any of the government. She said this is why they don't trust the government. These women, meaning the victims of Epstein and Epstein's clients, these women shouldn't have had to face that for this information to come out. And we, the Republican members of the House of Representatives, we should have never faced intimidation and threats for us to get this vote to come to the floor. Well, who is intimidating and who is threatening members of the United States Congress, the elected representatives of the people of this country? I'll tell you who's doing it. The deep state. They're a cadre of anti-American, power hungry fucking scum. That's who they are. We need to know names. Oh, there's going to be people that are embarrassed that they went down to Epstein's child rape island. They should be embarrassed. They should be. And if they are guilty of committing crimes while there, they should be arrested. They should be prosecuted. Their companies should suffer for it because that's how it works. That's how it works. What happened to the story just 2 days ago that Jeffrey Epstein was one of the financiers and designers or involved with the design and creation of Bitcoin? Where'd that story go? It just disappeared. I wonder if the deep state had something to do with the censorship of that. I wonder, huh? The whole thing is completely off the hook, folks. Now, Trump called Marge Taylor Greene a traitor. A traitor to what? She spent her campaign money and time campaigning for Trump. And then he turns around and shits on all of us on multiple things, like the Epstein files. Not only did he not want to release them, but he called us names and told us he doesn't need us after all the support we gave him. That's a traitor to us, is it not, the American people? The Make America Great Again movement that people spent literally billions of dollars on. Guess what? Yeah, we were treated like shit on that. In fact, now MAGA is a joke, but America First isn't. So this term traitor, define it, right? Representative Big Marge took a well-deserved shot at President Trump earlier today while speaking at a press conference with the Epstein victims who showed up. Why did she take a shot at him? Why am I saying it's well-deserved? Because Trump called Marge Taylor Greene Marge Traitor Greene. That's right. He called her a traitor first. So turnabout's fair play in politics. But let's define what traitor is. What is a traitor? Well, I think Big Marge laid it out well. She says, quote, "Let me tell you what a traitor is. A traitor is an American who serves foreign countries and themselves." That sounds like everyone in Congress. They serve themselves with insider trading and they take money from foreigners. Oh, you bet, folks. AIPAC, America-Israeli Political Action Committee, non-government organizations, NGOs from around the world that donate money through various channels to avoid detection. And then they do what? We've got anti-Americanism here. We've got pro-Muslims and pro-Israel and pro-everything but pro-America. And as soon as we say America First, they call us Nazis, Hitler, white supremacists. Right. Now, a traitor is an American who serves foreign countries and themselves. Today, this is very relevant. These topics are extremely relevant today because they are directing the politics in Washington, D.C., and they will spin everything. They will push away the bad. They'll adopt the good. They'll start lying to us in new ways. But is her definition correct? It seems accurate to me. Is every DC politician that takes AIPAC money, prays at the wall of Jerusalem, and attacks anyone who speaks up about the mass murder and genocide in Gaza, are they traitors? Well, they're going to argue about it, right? They're going to say, oh, yeah. But, Marge hasn't taken their money, nor has she attacked the free speech of others. She hasn't said, you have to be quiet, and you have to be quiet, and you have to be quiet. No, that would be the deep state trying to silence everybody to keep them from talking about these topics. Now, over in Israel, folks, the people there are messaging on X, and they use their Hebrew language and alphabet. Well, there used to be this button called Translate on X, and it would tell you what they're saying. And that got turned off. It got turned off. I guess X is a traitor now, huh? It's hiding and giving aid and comfort to people who want genocide, who are laughing about children being shot, who want mothers killed. Anything they can get, right? They should be removed for promoting violence, these users in Israel. Instead, they remove our ability to translate what they're talking about. Sounds like, well, Elon Musk has been drinking the Israeli Kool-Aid. I don't like the fact that the Muslims are over here either, folks. Governor Abbott of Texas has designated the Muslim Brotherhood and CARE as foreign terrorists and a transnational criminal organization. And he is through this law or designation trying to ban Islamic organizations from buying or acquiring land in Texas. I don't believe Governor Abbott has done anything. He also said he was defunding them and taking away their little Islamic cities they're building, and that was a lie. Now, Texas has actually given millions and millions and millions of taxpayer dollars to Muslim organizations and mosques. You know, Muslim churches have exploded covering Texas cities in Muslim centers. Folks, everyone in the Middle East, I don't care what the religion is, hates Americans, hates Christian, and their invasion of us is to erase us and replace us with themselves. That's what's going on in, well, Europe and America, Canada and Australia. They hate us. They hate European culture and European laws. And we are in big, big trouble. Now, I'm going to shift gears with you guys. I want to know what you're thinking about down in the comments. Go ahead and leave your thoughts. Man is here. Moderator-in-chief is back. We're going to switch gears, though, over to what's going on down in South America. Trump is openly supporting military strikes against the drug cartels. Well, not only down in Colombia and Venezuela, but also drug cartels in Mexico. So what he is basically telling the world is that there is going to be a larger United States military intervention over in our own area of the woods, the Western Hemisphere, North and South America. Now, if I remember correctly, the last war on drugs was to remove the Colombian cocaine cartels because they were in charge of cocaine distribution. And, well, once that happened, well, the CIA had a monopoly to run the illicit drug trade into our nation. You know, like through Mena, Arkansas, where Bill Clinton was governor. You know, I don't want drugs in this country, and I hope that they're serious about stopping the drugs, but I know the CIA is not. Back when we had the military over in Afghanistan, they literally had United States Marines guarding opium poppy fields. Geraldo Rivera himself interviewing a Marine lieutenant with his troops standing by, protecting the growth and production of heroin. And they actually said, well, this is how they're going to make money in Afghanistan, creating and selling heroin. How does that help anyone? It gets them a little bit of money and makes a bunch of drug addicts over here. Well, that was then, and now we don't have that. Now we have fentanyl. But, oh, well, you know, and other, I'm going to call them cocktail drugs. You know, that mix a little fentanyl in your cocaine and give you a, you know, something extra. Oh, we're in big trouble, folks. We are fighting for our lives while our government is fighting to control us. Isn't that amazing? We, the people, are supposed to be free to speak, free to pray, free to believe what we want, free to say what we want. We're supposed to be free to defend ourselves and defend others and defend the nation. We're supposed to be free from restraint, unreasonable and unlawful search and seizure. We're supposed to be free from being incarcerated and tortured without a trial by our peers. We're supposed to be free of all these things, yet what do we have? You can be arrested for anything, anytime. You can be locked away. You can be tortured. You don't have a right to any sort of privacy. Everything about you is either stolen by computer companies and provided to government services. Right? You don't have any protection or any privacy anymore. Well, John, if you've got nothing to hide, man, what's the problem with it? Well, because I don't want anyone, putting a camera in my toilet, in my shower, in my bedroom. It's none of their fucking business. Right? They don't have a reason. Well, if you got nothing to hide, I don't. It's my rights and my privacy, my life, everything. This is what we're up against. And we have other nations that aren't just satisfied with us getting screwed over by our government. They want us to be invaded with their mentality and their people, and that is the Middle East. If there's one thing the Israelis and the Muslims agree on, it's killing Christians. It's treating Christians like shit. It's beating Christians. It's destroying Christian churches. That's what they're doing over there in the Middle East. And if I saw the news correctly this morning, Israel is now invading southern Lebanon. They're claiming they own the whole Middle East now, folks. I don't know if you've seen their map, the Greater Israel Project. Why are we supporting them? Why are we allowing a Muslim to be the mayor of New York City? He has today said that it's an international city. What the fuck does that mean? International city? No, it's an American city. It's in an American state. But this is what we're up against. They're not just fucking rewriting the meanings of words. They're now just ignoring the Constitution altogether. Globalism is not going away. And the proponents of the LGBT and transgender pedophile world, the proponents, supporters, and funders of that are not going away either. Do you know who they are? Do you know who is pushing it? Big part of that, a huge part of that was Larry Fink with BlackRock. Are you invested in BlackRock? If you are, you're giving money to people who hate America. And I know who Larry Fink, I know who and what he is. And they're pushing diversity, equity, inclusion, which means we want LGBTQIAP, right? All this shit inside companies. They're pushing it into schools. In fact, somewhere, I can't remember if it was America or Canada, I think it's America, a judge, an anti-Christian judge, ruled that a mother cannot take her daughter to school. The kid's not allowed to pray, right? It's completely stomped all over what we call our First Amendment rights. It is a complete and total shit show. It is a terrible day in America, even though, yes, the House of Representatives passed some legislation saying release the Epstein files. They've been putting this off for months. They even went on a 6-week retarded vacation. And as soon as they come back, it's front and center again, and it should be. I didn't forget. You didn't forget. We didn't forget. Well, it's going to be embarrassing. Good. They should be. Jeffrey Epstein's brother, who I think is kind of hard to take him as a completely credible type of guy, says that all of the Epstein files are being scrubbed of high-profile political figures. I guess we'll find out, if everyone on the list is dead. Right, that would be interesting, would it not? Or they're basically nobodies or made-up names. We're going to find out. I think we're getting screwed again. For Trump to go from, you're a bunch of morons and idiots for pushing this Epstein thing. I don't need you. I don't want you, and blah, 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 blah. To all of a sudden, yeah, I'll sign it. What's that tell you? At the very least, it tells you his name is out of there. Right? And he has. There's a ton of pictures, folks, of Trump with Epstein and Jizzy Maxwell and young girls. That doesn't mean anything. It just doesn't look good. So he couldn't be objecting to that because those are in the public domain. So what's in the lists? What's in the letters and the emails? I actually had it come out that Epstein says this would be Jeffrey, doesn't like Trump. He's probably just using him for power and access and prestige. Wouldn't surprise me in the least. But we've got problems, folks. We've got a lot of problems. Let's step over to this. Bill and Hillary Clinton have refused to appear at the House Oversight Committee for their Epstein depositions. Right? If you've been subpoenaed to go to the House, you have to go. Now, and they don't want to, they're refusing. Now, Peter Navarro, who worked for Trump in the first administration, who is a hero, in my opinion, for calling out Fauci, Dr. Doom, to his face and shouting him down at the White House. Peter Navarro was arrested and thrown in jail for refusing to testify in Congress, though he actually did have presidential immunity. So why aren't the Clintons being arrested? Why isn't there a warrant for failure to appear for a congressional subpoena? This whole thing stinks, right? So I found this on the internet. So the Epstein files exist, but they don't exist because it's all a hoax. And anyone asking for the release is actually a bad person. And Trump doesn't want or need their support anymore, even though Trump himself is now requesting the release because he has nothing to hide. But he does want you to stop talking about it, but also ask Bill Clinton about it because the files are on Bondi's desk, ready to be released tomorrow back in February. But it's just phase 1, even though there's no phase 2. And hey, some binders, and thanks to Dan Bongina, we can confirm Epstein did indeed kill himself because 10 hours of some, quote, clear as day, quote, enhanced footage of a door that wasn't even his cell with a few missing minutes proves it. Case closed. In other words, the deep state is so heavily involved in trying to control the narrative from 5 different angles. They're trying to control the narrative through Trump, through the FBI, through the Attorney General's office, through the mainstream media, through the Democrats, through the Republicans. They're trying to control every avenue with some line of shit. Incredible, is it not? I find it to be incredible what's going on. We are having basically a civil war, folks, in the Republican Party. And I've read the people that they just drink the Trump Kool-Aid. They can't believe for a second that something stinks in Denmark. Something is rotten, just absolutely rotten. So now all of a sudden Trump is siding with free speech again in the Make America Great Again Civil War, right? America first. It has made its mark and it's continuing to make its mark. I say support the fight against government and the deep state and nations out there that want to destroy us, to take our freedoms and our wealth and enslave us to foreign interests from the Middle East. Now, how about them Epstein clients, Mr. President? What do you guys think? I really want to know what you guys think, right? I mean, I think these witnesses that have something to say are credible, but why aren't they naming names? I think they took money. I think they're victims of all of these rich bastards who were paid off so they can say, I'm a victim, but they can't say names, right? Like there's a non-disclosure agreement. So they want the Congress to release the names, right? Of course, Representative Thomas Massey and Marge Taylor Greene, along with the POS Ro Khanna, making strange bedfellows. They had a press conference with these Epstein victims today, right? But we were told that they're not credible by Cash Patel. So literally hundreds, if not thousands of victims are not credible witnesses, right, Cash? Oh, he said he was going to answer today, but instead he ended up probably flying around the country chasing his girlfriend around. He's actually now had the FBI has given her personal protection. An FBI SWAT team is how the news is portraying it, is protecting his girlfriend. I didn't know that Cash Patel's girlfriend was in any sort of trouble or was being threatened. I had no idea. I think people want to ask her some questions like, who the fuck are you to tell people what they can talk about? You know, why are you suing people for speculating about your involvement with Mossad and whether or not you're a honeypot and you're being used to corral and control Cash Patel? Well, anyways, so instead they just say the witnesses are not credible. Well, can't these witnesses, if they lie, be sued for, everything they're worth for slander? Because all of these so-called elite billionaire types, we don't want to slander their good names, but their names need to come out. I'm pretty much disgusted with this idea that, well, we don't have equality in this country. Well, we have our special, privileged, protected people. I didn't think we were supposed to have that. Well, we've got big troubles on every level. Here's another one for you. We'll go over this, then I want to hear your thoughts in the second half of the hour on this terrible Tuesday. We now have 6 congressional scumbag, piece of shit, socialist commie Democrats in Washington, D.C., calling for, I don't know if you want to call this a coup or calling for the military to refuse orders. Well, actually they are. They're demanding that members of the military commit treason and defy orders from President Trump. They should be expelled from Congress for inciting military disobedience. They should be expelled. And then, well, I think they should be tried for, if not treason, insurrection, because it's a crime. They want a soft coup, huh? Just don't do what he says. Yeah, just disobey orders. Well, disobeying orders is a court-martial offense. So we have congressional members telling or demanding members of military to disobey orders and commit court-martial offenses. A court-martial offense is a crime. So congressional members are asking or demanding the military commit military crimes against, well, the president, against the Constitution, and against us, the people. Now, I'm sure they're talking to the Pentagon and the officer corps. Do you think that enlisted men are going to commit crimes against our nation? Because 6 moron Democrats have asked for it? I doubt it. But it doesn't mean the effort hasn't been underway for a long time to, shall we say, control and influence the military, against their better judgment and risk everything. Well, folks, shit has hit the fan. We do have a lot of foreign influence in this country coming from, well, China, Iran, Israel, Ukraine, England, the city of London. I'm sure Russia is still involved in things. Crazy business. Let's get to your comments and thoughts. One more item. Trump was asked. He was asked about I think, Tucker Carlson, which is associated with his Nick Fuentes. Is that his name? The young guy who speaks to Gen Z. And he does not like Israel at all. He is all America first. And they're actually influencing other influencers. One of them, namely, is Matt Walsh, who is an intelligent guy. He's the guy with the beard. Intelligent guy. And he was saying, hey, not just America first, but America only. Now, he's going to get himself in trouble because he works for Ben Shapiro, who is MIGA, and tells Americans that retiring is stupid. I don't know why anyone needs to retire. Well, it's because you're a fucking idiot who's never had to work in his life. And you don't know what it's like to be just absolutely crippled with pain. You can't work after age 60. It's just, what a dickhead. And of course, he says, if you can't afford to live where you grew up, then you have to move somewhere else. Well, I got an idea. Why don't you move back to Israel with your Israeli family? Right? This is Ben Shapiro. So we've got this battle with conservative social media. And it is Nick Fuentes. And Tucker Carlson is releasing a huge documentary on 9/11 and the lies that America has been force-fed. And who was involved? Crazy business. All right, folks, look, none of this is easy. None of this is actually fun. All of this is heart-wrenching and heartbreaking. All of this crap, how our government is controlled, what is happening to kids and drugs and our military and our schools and our economy. All of this sucks. The lies coming from government, that they're allowed to lie, that we have foreign influence here that is literally calling for our destruction, that claims that it owns us, that we're its cattle or we're its slaves. These foreign interests that believe they can lie to us and steal from us, threaten us, intimidate us. The foreign influence, folks, that hates us, literally hates us. They hate each other too, but they definitely hate us. All right, let's jump into it. I think we got a good one, a 4-part startup question coming out of the other side, and it's Man himself. He says, my question is, why don't the victims get together, have a press conference, and name the names? There is a chance that they're making up stories and just looking for a payday. Accusations are not evidence or proof. Very true. And I want to go back through and address all these if we can, Mr. Uman. And he says, if they did take payoffs and sign non-disclosure agreements, they should sit down and shut the fuck up. This sounds a lot like believe all whammon. Something stinks. It does stink. Everything stinks. Let's go back to number 1, if we shall. Uman's question is, why don't the victims get together, have a press conference, and name the names? Well, if they have a non-disclosure agreement because they took money, they can't name names, and they may be very limited on what they can talk about. But there is a good chance that they're making up stories and looking for a payday. I don't discount that at all, because people claiming to be victims is now how you get a payday in America. Whether you're talking about the EBT, SNAP victims who need free handouts from everybody because their great-great-great-great-grandparents might have been slaves. And so everyone owes them. They're victims. Dave Portnoy, I think is his name, of Barstool Sports, makes fun of people, makes fun of women, talks down to people, sexually harasses people. He's a giant dickhead. He takes advantage of people's weaknesses. Someone makes a comment, an anti-Semitic comment, and he's a victim. Everyone's a victim. I get it. People make up stories and they want to be victims because it's, I don't know, is it exciting? So anyways, yeah, I get that, and I agree with that. So these victims that are out there, let's continue if we shall. Mr. Uman, good stuff. Accusations are not evidence or proof. Now, we do know that Jeffrey Epstein, 15 years ago approximately, was arrested and convicted of being a pedophile. His sentence was reduced. It was disclosed at that time that he was an intelligence asset. In other words, he worked for or was associated with, well, the FBI, the CIA, Mossad, somebody, and that we got to protect him somewhat. So, he didn't really suffer a whole lot. But there's kids involved. The guy's a pedophile, right? Why would a pedophile be an asset to the CIA or FBI unless they were, well, using it for control, for power, for some sort of, intelligence operation? Meaning, yeah, there's probably other kids there, children, and they've grown up into adults now. And yeah, accusations aren't evidence or proof. But if they were on Epstein's island, or they were working in a massage parlor for Epstein in Florida, or if they were in his New York apartment, Epstein's not going to allow them to bring in cameras and, voice recorders. And they've described how they've been controlled, how they are victimized. So, accusations are not evidence or proof. So how do we get through that? Right? If you're not allowed to discuss one item, it kind of, by signing these non-disclosure agreements, right, it makes what they have to say clouded because they're not allowed to talk about certain aspects of it. But we have pictures of Epstein with very young women and others as well. And if there was no evidence at all, why don't they release the files, right? So it goes both ways. This cuts both ways. The fact that Trump attacked his own supporters tells me there's something stinking here, right? The Anthony Weiner laptop had a Clinton insurance file, and the reports that came out from that were awful, right? Dan Bongino, Kash Patel, they were absolutely rabid for releasing this and going after these child molesters, these pedophiles. But once they're in a position of power and who knows how much money they've been offered, all of a sudden it's a joke, it's a hoax, it's not real. I mean, we had Pam Bondi herself tell the American people on television that she has thousands of hours of videos that was taken from Jeffrey Epstein's studio apartment, from the island itself, that had powerful people sexually abusing children. That seems like pretty good evidence or proof there, right? That they had photographs, pictures. That's pretty powerful evidence right there. They have the black book. They threw Jizzy Maxwell in jail for a hoax. Or are these accusations, I'm going to use the term, this is a good one, based? Are these accusations based on evidence that others have talked about? And I just named the big names: Bondi, Patel, Bongino, Trump himself. Right? Trump is, it's just the whole thing stinks. They're all involved to greater and lesser degrees. Whether it's just, man, I shouldn't have been there, these people just aren't cool, to there's some bad shit going on. Like this claim that, murdering children and drinking adrenaline-enriched blood from terrorizing these kids. That's just like way off the charts, right? That's the Pizzagate, Comet Ping Pong, kill rooms. That's what really cracked the lid right off of this, right before the 2020 election. And now the politician's like, yeah, let's release it. Everything's cool, man. Let's release it. But you are absolutely right. Accusations are not evidence or proof, but a preponderance of information, right, combined with legitimate government officials saying they've seen the evidence. They know it's real. And then claiming that this evidence they have is tied up in national security, so we can't release it. That tells me whatever it is, it's so bad they're doing everything. They are desperately trying to hide it. And I believe 100% that they're going to do just that. They're going to hide it. They're going to minimize it. They're going to downplay it. They're going to downplay it. I don't know if anyone's going to get arrested because Pam Bondi has arrested nobody of any consequence. Even though we have Adam Schiff, senator from California, mortgage fraud. Attorney General from New York, Letitia James, fucking mortgage fraud. Right? How many of these big shots? Mortgage fraud, mortgage fraud, mortgage fraud. That's just the world of mortgage. How about their taxes? Right? It's yeah. What's the word here? Embezzlement, misappropriation of funds. Fat ass Fannie Willis, right? The mayor of St. Louis. She is a complete sack of shit, right? Just all of these politicians stealing money, lying, using government money to pay for their vacations and their gifts. AOC is guilty of a bunch of this. They're fucking liars, all of them. So I certainly don't trust politicians, but if some women come up and make accusations against rich and powerful people, I'm not going to do this. Believe them just because they say, right? How do we get through this? Right? I'm not going to believe all women or believe her or believe, I don't play that game. But we have a lot of evidence that this was real. People have gone to jail. People have been convicted. There's evidence that was found. There's numerous reports. You got the Wiener laptop. You got the Hunter Biden laptop that's just fucking loaded with illicit drugs being weighed for distribution, argument about what things are worth, hookers, and what appear to be underage girls dressed in lingerie, just kind of hanging with Hunter Biden. So you can't say there's no evidence or no credible evidence out there because of the evidence we have seen that's been reported, right? The Wiener laptop went to, I think, the NYPD first. And then several of those police officers that allegedly, and I'm using the word allegedly there, viewed it, committed suicide. A lot of people get suicided, deep state. Kind of like right after January 6th, several Washington metropolitan police officers committed suicide. Why? What did they see? What did they know? Were they that dishonored? Were they that ashamed? Were they going to blow the whistle? Whoop! That one sounds good because that was a fucking deep state operation. Christopher Wray of the FBI lies to Congress and says there were no FBI agents sent to that. We find out through Kash Patel because someone found the papers. Yeah, 274 FBI agents. So the guy that says none were there sent 274 there. Pelosi's been caught red-handed because of her daughter's own release of information talking about how she set it all up. It's all bullshit, right? Right? If we can't believe witnesses, we can at least believe the government, right? When they say that they're involved in it and they've seen the evidence. It's absolutely crazy. So this is, now it's funny. This is all today. In 2 or 3 days, we could have an entirely new set of headlines that is SHTF related, that is affecting our nation, our safety, and we're just going to forget all this Epstein stuff because it's going to be that big. Like we could have, the charge came out that Israel threatened that if we don't attack Iran, that they're going to use nukes. I don't know what that means, and I don't know if that's a credible story. We've been threatened several times with, we're about ready and due for another 9/11 type terror attack. And Trump is, of course, threatening, hey, we're going to go to war with the drug cartels. Venezuela, he just went to the next level. Whoop, ratcheted up with Venezuela and their cartel there that they're saying puts us in a position where now, yeah, we can attack them as a terrorist organization, the whole country of Venezuela. Well, what about the country of Mexico? Shine Bomb is run by the cartels, and she's protecting the cartels. She's worried about the cartels' rights while they're assassinating people. And then, of course, Colombia. All of a sudden, Colombia is thrown back in this one as well. Oh, crazy business. There's no actionable item for us to go anywhere with. I think why this information is important, why it needs to be shared, why it needs to be discussed is not because it's all bulletproof. It doesn't mean the government is absolutely treasonous. It doesn't mean that foreign nations are absolutely evil. But there's a lot of evidence to suggest these very things. There's a lot of evidence to suggest it, and we need to be aware because bad things have happened. There were no weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. Has anyone heard the explanation for why they needed to go in to Libya and, well, take out Gaddafi and do a regime change? Has anyone heard a legitimate reason why that had to happen? Well, it did happen. The only legitimate reason I could think of is Europe wanted Libya's oil, and now they've got it. It was a war for oil, just like Iraq. And now, oh yeah, Venezuela, oil. And drugs are used to fund black ops. The CIA has done it for years. One particular family member of mine who has since passed away, he is dead, told me a very interesting story a couple of decades ago about how they removed drugs off of a military airplane in the presence of General Westmoreland back in Vietnam. Body bags stuffed with heroin. Is that true or not? This source is not entirely credible, but it was a story I heard. Seems believable, especially since the CIA and everyone in the media in the 80s and 90s knew they were flying coke into Mena, Arkansas. Here we go. Mikey G is going to step into it. The CIA, the Central Intelligence's Air America in Vietnam, Laos, and Cambodia did all manner of smuggling, not just drugs. Well, what are you saying there, man? Not just drugs. Now, I tell you what, Mac VSOG was in there. They did their work. That was mostly anti-communist infiltration. Basically, they did the same thing and more that the Green Berets were doing, and that's, building insurgency and counterinsurgency forces. But I'm pretty sure drugs had a lot to do with it as well. It'd be nice if I could interview someone like John Lear and others, but there's really no way to stop this machine, this deep state thing that exists. All I want is for us to be aware of it. Aware of it. Folks, this drugs for control, it goes all the way back to the Boxer Rebellion in China, the East India Trading Company, the slave trade between Europe, the Americas, and Africa. It's all the same people playing the same games century after century after century. It's just, and what can you do? I mean, you're going to be like, the Knights of the Round Table on Holy Grail and run up to a giant stone castle and all you've got is a sword and start stabbing the rocks, right? We can't dismantle this. We can't take it down, but by golly, we can at least be aware. And I'm certainly not going to put my faith in anyone in Washington, D.C. Those days, probably long over 200 years ago in America, when we could actually believe and trust that the people in charge aren't there to enrich themselves and fuck us over, but rather to serve us. Okay, Mr. Uman, I know we got a lot to talk about. I've already gone too far. Diving Frog says, John, I saw a segment where a shoplifter had the shit beat out of them by security and beaten out the door. Finally, people are starting to fight back. Yes, on a very personal and local level, we can do that. And I think we, the people, are doing that. They're protecting people at subways and trains. They're starting to fight back against scum. But it's just, where is this going? Right? Can we stop them? I mean, we have Knights Templar groups in Europe are marching through the streets. But when they march, there's no Muslim army. But then the next week, there's a Muslim army, hundreds, if not thousands of them just marching through the streets. In fact, in Germany, they're marching through Christmas markets, holiday markets set up by Christians who want to celebrate Christmas and sell trinkets and goodies and probably Yule logs and whatever else that the Europeans do. And the Muslims got to march through that screaming Aloha snack bar at everyone. And God is great and Muhammad is his prophet and blah, 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 all their bullshit. It's almost like we're getting set up for a complete and total socio-religio-political reset, because we can't all seem to coexist as the bumper sticker promotes. I don't know why we can't have European culture, which is also called white culture, our traditions. Well, you do that, you're a Nazi, right? You're bad. But we need to preserve other cultures and other races and other religions, but we got to get rid of Christianity. Why is that? Well, Christianity has made itself weak. I can tell you that. Anyways, thank you, Diving Frog. Mr. Uman, what else is out there? What are the other opinions? We got CJ Flexin. He says, we the people aren't winning this battle by a long shot, and Trump is out. What's next? Well, that's just it. Let's see. Back in the end of the 80s, we got tired of a bunch of shit. So, we didn't like George H.W. Bush. So we got Ross Perot. And then Ross Perot. And then we got, the left, they drug out. Who's the asshole that didn't like the Corvair? The Democrat guy. I haven't heard from him in a long time, so I forgot his name. Ralph Nader. He wrote the book Unsafe at Any Speed. Talking about a car, right? And so we keep getting these people that are going to fix things, right? In 2000, we had the Bush Gore. In 2004, we had Skull and Bones versus Skull and Bones with George W. Bush and Frankenstein, John F. Kerry Hines, right? We had JFK, another JFK. We haven't had a legitimate, decent, fucking pro-American president. I'm probably going to get in trouble for saying this, since JFK, since he was actually pro-American. Right? A lot of Republicans called him a communist because he was trying to make peace with the Russians. Right? He met with Khrushchev. Before that, we had Dwight D. Eisenhower, President Eisenhower, who in his departing speech from the presidency warned America about, the military-industrial complex. Kennedy called them secret societies, which I think is a misnomer. Because, they're not secret societies in the more traditional sense. They're organizations that are wealthy and powerful that are making money off of all of us. The banking cartels, the military weapons cartels, right? Anyways, by the way, Eisenhower is basically responsible for creating the secret societies or power cartels, one of them being the CIA. Right? But they discovered that they can make an awful lot of money selling weapons. World War I, World War II, whoops, right? Korea, Vietnam, it never stops. It never ends. They cut an entire nuclear weapons arms race, and then it went to the space race with Star Wars. Who is that enriched? Me and you? Well, hey, John, we got some great inventions, man. We got ballpoint pens that write upside down. We got Velcro. And we got Tang. And we got NASA the other day doing a press conference saying, for the first time ever, we're getting ready to send men to the moon. It's like, excuse me? And then, What is this world really about? Wild business. Ooh, man, do we have another one before I start talking about lizard people? David Hastings says, John, I think Trumpster's cheese is slipping off the cracker. He is a backpedaling motherfucker. I wonder who got to him. Well, I think Trump, I think he is suffering from a combination, and this is just my opinion. I'm not a medical doctor. I'm not a licensed psychoanalyst, but I think Trump is suffering from exertion, working too much. He is old. He's not a young man, and he is becoming aggravated, shall we say, a lot more. He called a reporter Piggy for asking about Epstein yesterday. And then today he's like, well, for the Epstein files. So you ask, I wonder who got to him. I wonder if the people who got to him to control him have now said, we fixed the files. It's cool. You can talk like you're an America firster if you want even. But he did come out and basically say, hey, Tucker can talk to who he wants. Nick Fuentes can talk to who they want. Freedom of speech. Right? It's kind of a Jekyll and Hyde type thing. Is it because you got a good night's sleep at a Motel 6 where they'll leave the light on for you? I don't know. What I do know is I don't like what's happening. I don't trust these people who tell us what we want to hear and then do the exact opposite. We're busy working and focusing on this, and they screw us over here. We go to sleep, and they pass laws in the middle of the night. Right? A bomb drops on Iran, and while we're all focused on Iran, they're busy excusing themselves. We catch them in a lie, they take 6 weeks off. Right? I don't like what is going on, and my accusation, which I think is well-founded and can be supported with historical evidence, right? That the U.S. government right now, in its current condition, is every bit as guilty as the crown, King George of England, and all the accusations against him in the Declaration of Independence. I think that we've got all that, yeah. And by the way, King George was nutty as a fucking fruitcake. He was off his rocker. Right? He was out of his fucking gourd. And here we are. Yeah, his cheese is slipping off the cracker. Right? He doesn't have both oars in the water. His elevator's not going all the way to the top. The light's on, but he's not really home. I love all those expressions, but cheese slipping off the cracker is one of my favorites. Yeah. You know, how can he flip-flop so quickly? Someone asks, well, why don't you just release the files? And he calls the person Piggy and makes fun of them. You know, and you can't make everyone happy. I get it. Did the American people get to Trump? Sure. I bet it does get to him. I bet he does feel guilty. I bet he wishes he could tell us the truth. I'll go that far, say that much about him. Right? Because one of the things that is just a beautiful part of human psychology is when people confess, load off of their mind, right? Their conscience, right? It's relieved of the burden of their fucking lies to tell the truth. That's what cops try and do is, hey man, just get this off your chest, confess to the truth, man, and at least you're going to go to jail knowing that you're a decent person. Well, why don't fucking politicians do that? Well, they rarely do. When they do, they usually end up dead. I don't know, maybe James Trafficant. Does everyone know, by the way, as we're at the end of the show, how much and how often President Richard Nixon talked about Israelis and who they were and how they were controlling the government 50 fucking years ago? You see, the deep state, my friends, and the intelligence services have been running this fucking country, well, way past Nixon. They went to war in Cuba without presidential authorization during the Kennedy administration in the early 60s. It's a mess. And when a system breaks, who do you think pays the price? You and I, the people. Hoosier says, he's referring to Eisenhower. President Eisenhower said, beware of the military complex. Yeah, and he did help create it. He helped set it up. They used the intelligence services, the CIA. They used the Italian mafia. They used the Jewish mafia. They used the Cubans. They used everyone they could to fight for what they thought was the America they wanted. Now I think they just fight for the power that they want. Also, by the way, they brought Nazis over and brought them into the intelligence services. Yeah, Operation Paperclip. Look it up. Folks, chance favors the prepared mind. I hope you just consider the information, but definitely food, water, shelter, clothing, medicine, means of self-defense. Understand that when everything falls apart, it won't be the CIA we're going to worry about. No. It'll be people in the 10-mile radius around you that you're going to need to worry about. So get prepared. Just in case. Just in case we get that black swan, that false flag they keep threatening us with. Godspeed, Semper Fi.